For our 52nd class, we looked at the Gilded Age, building a technological and industrial giant and a new social order, 1876 to 1913. Now, the word gilded you might not be familiar with. Gilded means layered in gold. And if you want to get symbolic, the picture frames at the time that people hung in their houses were gilded. Inexpensive wood, spray-painted gold. So it looked very luxurious, but at the core, underneath, it was not so luxurious, okay? And we went about it in a little unusual way that you and your people had 3 columns. One column, positive event. One column, mixed event. One column, negative event. And what I wanted you to do is use your classmates, use this video, use the PowerPoint, use the book, and kind of think in your head, where does it fit into this broader scheme? Okay, let me give you 2 examples before I do straight content on you. Okay, Edwin Drake discovers oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. And here's a picture of that first oil discovery. Perfect timing for the Industrial Revolution. So in terms of perspective, you might say, oh, this is a really good thing. Financial gain, put America on the right path, becoming an industrial giant, launched the Pennsylvania oil rush. You know, we still have Pennzoil, right? That sort of thing. Or mixed. It's a necessary evil. It was really lucrative, but it's real polluting, so it's kind of so-so. Or you can see this as a negative. This began our reliance on fossil fuels. It was very polluting. Nature was destroyed. And I'll do one more example before I hit you with straight content. 1870, Standard Oil Company launched. Okay, this went on to be one of the wealthiest companies on the planet. And you might see that as a good thing. Positive, efficient means of refining petroleum, allowed for economic growth, industrial growth, jobs, mixed. It was a profitable company, but some of their practices were really unsavory. Or you could see it as negative. This corporation revealed the worst aspects of capitalism, especially through its monopolistic practices. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do that with all of these. Now I'm going to start off with straight content. The next event is Edison demonstrates the universal stock ticker, so people could get real-time data of what was happening in the market. Obviously, that's going to facilitate economic growth. Treaty of Washington, United Kingdom, the United States. We sat down and we hammered out our issues, and it's created a permanent peaceful relation between the U.S. and Canada and the U.S. and Britain. And we've been cool with each other ever since, okay? So that was the Treaty of Washington. Panic of 1873. Now, if you've already taken economics, you understand how it's like a pendulum. You have good times and bad times. This is a really bad time. But what made this bad time unique, it was triggered by problems in Europe, which kind of made it clear that the economy really was global, but a lot of negative effects that go on with an economic downturn and a panic. And here's an example: people storming the banks. Okay, 1873, the Senate rejects the U.S. acquisition of the Dominican Republic. It was interesting, in the Dominican Republic, about 100% of them wanted to be part of the U.S., but America said, no, we're not going to do that. And those in opposition of that said, you know what, these people they have debts, they're a mess, they feel there's too much corruption. But a lot of people just said, these are people of color, we don't want them to be in America. Okay, so anyway, 1875, Dwight Moody launches his religious revival. I don't know if you've ever heard of Moody Bible College. I've had some students who have gone there, some deeply religious students who have gone there. And Dwight Moody became kind of the template for modern evangelist, and there's a lot of modern evangelists. And in terms of his influence, there is a principle separating church and state in America, but not everybody likes that. And houses of worship have been really influential in winning the hearts and minds and votes of people. So we have this unusual relationship between religion and politics in America. And Moody's revivals increased the influence on the lives of Americans, made people more Christian, okay? So you can see Moody bringing America to a more religious direction. Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone. I have to reveal my personal bias. You probably never want to ask anybody of Italian descent about that. Alexander Graham Bell is credited with the inventor of the telephone, okay? However, if you ask anybody of Italian descent, they'll tell you Antonio Meucci. He invented the telephone, and here in Italy they even have it, the inventor of the telephone. However, it is safe to say he was slow on the draw in terms of patenting it, and Alexander Graham Bell patented the telephone, and obviously the telephone is a major game changer in the world. In fact, the phone companies used to be called the Bell companies until maybe about 30 years ago. Okay. Now, here's Edison again, and this time period in history, Edison influenced heavily. So he establishes a research laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. Now, in the course of his life, he gets 1,094 patents, and many of these were created in this laboratory. And a lot of these are still used today, and it brought America into the age of modernity, the modern age. And his laboratory has been moved to Dearborn, Michigan. It's 20 minutes from school if you want to check it out. Okay, so that's a. And then we have the World's Fair, and 1876 was America's 100th birthday, and we're getting away from the Monroe Doctrine. This was a friendly way to do so, but getting involved with the world. And they had the World's Fair in Philadelphia, and it really showed the world that America is here. We're powerful, we're strong, we're innovative. It put us on the world stage. And the World's Fair, again, used to be huge, the biggest thing ever. Now we have the internet. If you want to get access to the world, just click on your mouse, right? Cornelius Vanderbilt died. Now, Cornelius Vanderbilt was the wealthiest guy at the time, and he is somebody that you can take a parallel to today. Now, there are some people who say certain people shouldn't be that rich, okay? And there was this debate back then, there's a debate now, that these people were robber barons, that they were taking advantage of the system and rotten. Nobody should have that much money. Other people saw them as captains of industry and people who led the economy. And okay, I'll let your econ teacher handle that debate. But, you know, think of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. Are they doing enough? Okay, so Cornelius Vanderbilt was, you know, that guy at the time. Also, a little trivia for you, Vanderbilt University, great baseball team during the baseball. They are the Commodores based off his nickname, the college he started. Okay, so Thomas Jefferson, University of Virginia, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt. Okay, Thomas Edison, again, the phonograph. This is one of the most important of his 1,094. He recorded sound. And I think we're all happy that we have recorded sound for our music. That goes without saying. Okay, Edison's first incandescent lamp burns for 16 hours. And what loomed on the horizon is something called the War of Currents. Okay, electrical currents. And Edison, he didn't come up with the idea of it, but he came up with the first practical model. And he used direct current, DC electricity, where in a couple years here, Tesla and Westinghouse are going to advocate for AC, and they will fight to control the fate of American electricity. But obviously, you can make an argument electricity is the most important invention in mankind, in history of mankind. That is safe to say. Okay, 1882, Edison again. His illuminating company lights a city, Manhattan. And you can see it here. He created an electric company, which we still have. There's the dynamo, and you know, because it worked and it was beautiful. Can you imagine seeing illuminated lights for the first time in New York? It must have been amazing. Okay, people realized, hey, this stuff is great. This really works, and it set the template for other cities to set up shop. So what happened was, city after city after city starts adopting electricity. Okay, this is a less positive thing on the same year. 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act. Now, you may recall from prior lessons how the Chinese were needed to build the railroads, and then this is pretty racist stuff. They were told a 10-year ban on Chinese laborers, and you couldn't return home if you were Chinese and wanted to return home. Even if you were a citizen, you couldn't do that. It was the first time America targeted a specific ethnic group and said, we don't want you. Okay. And then Westinghouse and Tesla, I alluded to those wars of the currents a little bit. They came up with AC, okay, alternating current. And for you science kids, there's a visual for you. And in the end, AC, quote unquote, won. Edison left the electricity business and moved on to other pursuits. But it was an interesting story how America was figuring out electricity in the early days. They even made a Hollywood movie about it recently. It was pretty good if you want to check that out. First trolley car built. The first ones used DC, converted to AC. And think about this. Trolleys don't poop. I know that's weird, but horses do. And prior to streetcars and trolleys and automobiles, it was horses. Horses are dirty. Horses are big. Horses are, you have to horseshoe them and put them in the carriage houses and that sort of thing. Okay, so what we start seeing is with trolley cars, we see more people able to move back and forth to work and more people to get around a city. 1890, Eastern Europeans and Asians start arriving here, and here's American Okay, immigration over time. I know we already talked about this, but this is the third wave, if you recall our lesson on immigration a couple days ago. And speaking of that, this third wave, most of it went through, not most of it, but a huge number of people went through Ellis Island. Ellis Island is technically in New Jersey, but people associate it with New York. But it's in New York Harbor between New York and New Jersey. And between 1892 and 1954, 12 million immigrants were processed there. You can check out your own name. I did the same, and 69 Salsicholis passed through there. So you might want to do that yourself. Panic of 1893. Here we go again. This really changed up everything, led to a new president, a lot of issues. Again, economies are very pendulum. Edison demonstrates the first moving picture. Okay, I'm thankful to have films. I'm sure you are. But then again, some films are positive, some are negative. 1901, U.S. Steel becomes the largest corporation in history. Add this to the list of, are they robber barons or captains of industry? And it's interesting, Carnegie gave a lot of his money to libraries, and you've heard of probably Carnegie Hall in New York. So he kind of set the tone that the super wealthy are supposed to do good with it. That's why I think Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos get some grief. It's like, we have all these problems in this world, and you're building a rocket ship, whereas Carnegie built libraries. That's kind of the debate of the day. 1902, the first mass-produced recording discs, and you can see the first means of record players. It's funny, record players are back. There's Victrola. Here's some. So it's gone full circle. But with recorded sound, started with cylinders, then vinyl discs. There's 78s, really big ones, 45s, little ones, 33s, medium ones. Then we had cassettes and compact discs, and now digital music. And then some of you are going back to vinyl, which is kind of cool. But anyway, recorded music's a biggie. Now this is, in my opinion, the biggest event of this time. Okay, flight. Okay, this is a major thing. The first time people flew, the Wright Brothers in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The era of aviation began. The world would never be the same. And here's a little statistic for you. Almost 24,000 days later, we were on the moon. So we went from this to the moon in 24,000 days. That's pretty quick progress, if you ask me. And then the last event on here, I know I'm running a little long. Henry Ford's moving assembly line begins at Highland Park, Michigan. That's 20 miles or 20 minutes from school. You ever want to check it out? I've actually taken historians there to give them a little tour. The plant produced 15 million Model T cars, made Detroit the Motor City for sure. And Henry Ford did not invent the assembly line, but he used it in the most effective way at the time. And his rationale is, I'm going to have the work move to my workers, not my workers move to the work. And they were able to produce a lot. As you can see, that's right there in Highland Park, Michigan, a lot of cars. And the first paved mile in U.S. history. A little trivia for you. All right. So in addition to turning in your chart, and your chart was just my way of having you debate and dig into these issues a little more and hope they stick into your head, I'm going to ask you to answer this following question. How would you characterize the Gilded Age? Do you consider it a more positive, negative, or mixed chapter in U.S. history? Provide me examples to buttress your argument, and look through various political lenses in your assessment: economic, political, cultural, humanitarian, etc. And the reason why I did it this way, I think this age is very dichotomous. I think there's a lot of good and a lot of bad, but I'm curious how you see it, okay? This is also on Google Classroom if you need to see that, okay? I know the video is a little long, but I appreciate you watching.